Is to call to order the City of Saugatuck City Council meeting for June 23rd, 2025. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Maybe we call the roll.
Anderson,
Here.
Clark,
Here. Here.
Gardner,
Here.
Muncy,
Here.
Peterson, here, Stan.
Here, we have a quorum. Thank you. And just a note, Russ is going to need to duck out at about 7, so don't be alarmed when he leaves. It was nothing you said. Just a quick comment for me. All of the, it is a heavy time to be alive in the world, and the continued unrest and tensions in Iran and the Middle East really hit me hard over the weekend and got me thinking about leadership and what we are called to do, and made me grateful that each of us, and I include Commissioner Lubbers, who's with us tonight, in that are very fortunate to be very close to our constituents. And so whenever we make decisions, we can picture the people they affect. And that's really a good thing because we have made some tough decisions. And I'm confident that every person around this table can imagine the people who are both positive and positively affected, negatively affected, or, not affected at all. And it's a big responsibility, and I'm glad that we take it seriously because, we really do touch people's lives in many ways more than other people, as, Ryan is fond of telling us, the water, the, plumbing that works, roads that are in shape. I mean, we oversee that we make policy around all of that. So anyway, I'm glad to be working with this team. Ryan.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. Just a few quick highlights. Cal Lake has released the annual water quality report. So that's on their website. So folks can check that out there at any time, but nothing, no particular concerns were flagged in the report this year. Our report from the Michigan Employment Retirement System, our annual report has been released, showing that the city's pension plans remain well funded. In fact, we're at 113% of where we should be at from their perspective as far as funding goes. Obviously, if the markets do some funny things and returns over time aren't quite what they project, obviously that number could change. So it's always kind of striking that right balance of where exactly do we want to be at percentage wise, but we're sitting in a much better position than a lot of other communities are across the state, and that speaks greatly to your stewardship and past council stewardship of your dollars over time to make sure that the pension is fully funded and plus some right now. In fact, Nikki and I are going to meet with MERS here next month just to kind of go over the results, what our lump sum payments are for the old pension plan as well, determine should we stand on not our current path, or should we reduce that a bit, or should we be looking at other options as well. So we'll be meeting with them next month. As you recall, the Convention and Visitors Bureau made a donation of some additional bike racks, and so those are now installed. So hopefully that'll help reduce some of the folks that want to use the trees and some of the other unique places to lock up their bike. But they look great. They're on nice new concrete pads. So thank you to the CVB for that work. Something that staff's excited about is tomorrow and Wednesday, we have interviews for the new administrative and project coordinator position with the Department of Public Works. We received 124 folks that wanted to come work for the city of Saugatuck and work with the team, and really great candidates. It was very difficult to narrow the list, but Scott got it down, and we're going to be interviewing and hopefully conduct the second round shortly after that. And then Scott will make a selection, and we'll have that position filled. Other than that, that's all I have tonight.
Great, thanks. I know of one agenda change I'd like us to make, and that's to add Commissioner Lubbers to become guest speaker B. Are there any other agenda changes? Did someone make a motion to add Commissioner Lubbers?
I'll go ahead and make a mo.
County Commissioner Brad Lubbers to tonight's agenda, item 7B.
I'll second.
Voice vote, all in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And that takes us to guest speakers. We have Shannon Stratton from Oxbow to start with us. Thank you, Shannon, for coming.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's really an honor to have been invited, so. I have only met a handful of you in person, so it's a pleasure to be here. I know that friendly face from being on the radio, that friendly face voice. So I making the assumption that everybody's familiar with Oxbow, your 115-year-old neighbor. As of this year, I'm mostly talking about where things are headed right now, what's going on this summer. But I also thought, given the timing of this invitation, it would be nice to share out with you just some quick broad strokes about our strategic plan, which also just got wrapped up and published. It's available on our website if you want some exciting reading. So go ahead, Jamie. Thank you. So there you go. Entrance to the campus. If you, of course, you're all aware that we together steward the Talmadge Woods on campus. If you weren't aware of this, we've been doing a lot of recent care around doing some replanting in sort of face of the hemlock trees that we've all been losing. We did go through that treatment program, but we've also started to do some replanting. We just had an event in May that was a little bit of a tree planting with the public event. But just a note about that. Go ahead, Jamie. So I just wanted to touch on the key main points about who we are, just as a kind of refresher, especially because as we went through the strategic planning process, we also sort of represented our mission under as a purpose. Our mission is quite simple because it's what's on our, IRS 501c3 form, but our purpose can change a little bit or be reworded in time. So just a reminder that we're an artist-built and run school and residency dedicated to the creation and preservation of time and space for arts education, research practice, and community building for artists at all stages of their artistic journey. I want to make sure to say that because sometimes folks think we only serve college students, and we actually don't. We've got a wide variety of participants throughout the year, of all age ranges at all stages of their artistic practice, from summer workshops for folks locally or visiting the area through longer residency programs for everyone up to professional artists visiting from around the country, sometimes around the world. I like to remind everyone of that because even though we're hidden down there in the woods, every month, really every 2 weeks, we have around 50 to 60 new people coming to campus to live there in the summer. If you include our summer staff in that, we have roughly 100 people on campus from basically the end of May until September. And those folks are, we are contributing to the local economy quite a bit in terms of who we work with to run our kitchen, run our campus, the businesses that we support locally, and then all of the things our faculty and students and visiting artists participate in and go out and contribute to between Saugatuck and Douglas. So we might be tucked out there, but we walk amongst you all summer long, and our guests come to town all the time to eat dinner, to buy wine, to go to the antique mall, to do all of the things that all tourists do. Our vision is to be a community builder, and we really wanted to put that into our vision statement as we did this strategic plan. I think if you've been following some of the things that we've been doing since the pandemic, we've been really working to do a lot more in the community that both invites people out to campus through our Taste of Oxbow dinner series, as well as bringing ourselves into the community through the purchase of our space that's in Douglas, Oxbow House, and some of the projects that we're doing in conjunction with events that are already happening in the community. But we see that as a really core part of what we're doing as an artists community. every summer we're bringing folks from all age ranges to live and work on campus. And, you know, in this day and age when people can really isolate themselves into their devices, being someplace in person with other human beings in nature, doing creative work is an incredible bridge builder, especially for younger folks, the college age students that we do support. It is really learning how to be in person with one another again and have tough conversations. We call them brave conversations. But we're doing a lot of that kind of work, really educating and helping support folks to be able to be in community again and really appreciate and value that. So our priorities, as we've sort of restated them going forward, contemporary art and artists, arts education, like I said before, for all stages of the artistic journey, stewardship of a historic artist-built campus and an endangered natural environment, building community between artists and audiences through innovative creative experiences, and celebrating the creativity, ingenuity, and art history in our Lakeshore region. So some of you may have stopped by last Saturday, but we did officially purchase the 137 Center Street building in Douglas. So we had a little ribbon cutting last Saturday, so we can officially say it was established in 2025. On the left-hand side there, you can see the model from our architect, Charlie Vince, with the roof off, showing our plans for the space. You know, we're probably going to be, I'm sorry that I'm gonna go like this. We're looking forward to probably beginning to work on that part of the project around spring 2027. Over the next year, we'll be, you know, doing some scoping work and then getting some bids out and starting a capital campaign next summer. So really kind of shooting for 2027 to be when we start to do the work we are doing on that building, which it's important to point out is about keeping a lot of the historic character of the space. And in fact, really starting to peel away some of the stories. That was a church, it was an Oddfellows Hall, it was an athletic center, it was a library, but really showcasing all those layers of that history in the design and preserving a lot of the historic nature of the space. It'll still be a retail art gallery where we support regional artists. There'll also be a really beautiful dedicated white box exhibition space where we start doing more kind of museum type shows with both historic figures from Oxbow's history and also many of the faculty that teach or visit at Oxbow. So, you know, before or the original image and if you go to the next image, the vision for the space in the future. That kind of flattened out perspective on the left there is really kind of building back what would have been the bell tower that has since gone away and doing a stained glass commission with an artist that will run up the side and around. Yeah, it's really cool. So all the things that happen on summer, a lot of this is just some refresher. I'm actually just gonna leave a little stack of things on the table when I leave, but Art on the Meadow workshops are going strong. You can see Jim Brandis over there teaching a painting class on the Meadow. Some of you may not know that we actually do teach workshops well into October. We are starting to expand more of the things that we do in what we call the shoulder seasons, but I think we all call them shoulder seasons, which for us, and I think are the same for the entire community, September through the end of October, and then the winter really. We're truly closed in November and December because we need to shut down campus and essentially clean things up and get ready for the next season. We've always done sessions in January, but we're starting to look at more things that we can do into February and March. This past winter, we had a residency at the end of January, beginning of February for our culinary artists and residents. And we did have a little public event at the end of that. That will continue to happen at that time of the year. So we are starting to lean a little bit more and feel into what makes sense on our campus at the limited winterized spaces we have. But if our winter class sessions were incredibly popular this year, there's huge demand for the very few beds that we have for that winter session. We are continuing to do our dinner programs. Taste of Oxbow, we have one on June 27th and August 1st. They're always aligned with Friday Night Open Studios, so the first one's coming up this Friday. We'll see you all there. And then in the fall, two fall dinners, October 4th and October 18th. Very excited that October 4th, Amy Thielen, who's a James Beard Award-winning cookbook author and chef from Minnesota, whose focus is really on Midwest foodways, is going to come in host the harvest dinner on October 4th. And really is excited to kind of get to know the sort of folks in this area, the fruit belt that it is, but get to know the growers and the farmers out here and incorporate that into the meal that will be happening that night. I already said that, Friday Night Open Studios coming up. We've got three, the date fell off there, June 27th, August 1st, and August 22nd. And then just as a kind of point of, even though it isn't local to us, we've also started partnering with the Grand in Grand Rapids. And we're doing a series of artist talks with them this summer, bringing some of our faculty and visiting artists out there to do talks during their Saturday afternoon speaker series. So we're really excited to have that partnership blossom this year. Our annual Field of Vision benefit is coming up July 19th. We are celebrating the 40th year of us having glass education on campus. It is a huge draw to artists and students to come out and study glass with us. If you've been to campus, you're familiar with our open air glass studio that was about 38 years ago. So we spent 2 years teaching glass under essentially a tarp, which is a wild thing to even imagine that we set up a temporary furnace to teach glass. But we're celebrating the 40th year this year. Funds raised from the benefit will go to support some ongoing improvements to the glass studio. One of the things in our strategic plan is the goal to winterize that space. As I said, glass is really in huge demand with artists and something we'd like to be able to essentially utilize year round and be able to bring artists to work there. And part of the Field of Vision this year is that Beth Littman, whose work you're seeing there, she just did an incredible commission actually in Michigan. Oh goodness, I just had a wonderful "it's too hot outside" moment. Wow, it'll flow back into my brain in a second. She did a commission in West Michigan, and she's a Wisconsin-based glass blower, and she's gonna do a live glass blowing during the benefit in collaboration with Corey Pemberton, one of our faculty members and our honoree. And so that object, that piece that you'll see getting made that evening will be what is auctioned off in the live auction. So yeah, that's a really incredible artist. So is Corey. I think it'll be really exciting that. Yeah, so I'm gonna kind of just end on these last three slides, just because I'm really excited about what came out of our strategic plan, and it's a really exciting moment to get to restate some of those things to my colleagues in the city. But really, after the pandemic really became a moment to think really deeply about what it is that is of value about an art school, about a summer art school. Why we're important within a community, why we're important to the larger field of the arts. And I think one of the things that we really found again and again is that one of the most important things that's of value about Oxbow is how much community is a part of the education. I already really kind of stressed that at the beginning, but what we do is provide an intimate community setting in a stunning natural environment. And we all really appreciate and care for this natural environment. And there have been so many studies that have shown that nature is healing, making art and community is healing, and we're putting those two things together. We've been doing that for 115 years, but times have become such that this kind of experience is even more important to people's health and well-being. So I don't think I would have ever thought of us in the past as maybe a health and well-being retreat, but I'm starting to see that more and more in terms of what people are getting out of it, why they're drawn to it, and what they're leaving with when they leave campus. So as these kind of points say, students can experience building and living in community with other artists where proximity is key to learning across generations, identities, and experience levels. Go ahead. And very sort of similar, art, life, and learning are immersive. It's very hard to have immersive experiences in education these days anymore. Corporate institutional education in city settings are such that people don't have access to studio space, to equipment kind of 24 hours a day. That would be probably the same for most fields where whether you're talking about the funding that those schools have to be open 24 hours, or you're talking about insurance and reasons that they can't allow that equipment to be accessed 24/7. But because of the small, intimate nature of our campus, we're actually able to provide a fully immersive educational experience, which is increasingly really rare. Not to mention that our staff and participants are living there together, so there's this real intergenerational exchange. And then I think something that we all care about here, stewardship is part of the experience. It's a big part of what we talk to our students and faculty and visiting artists when they arrive, that they are on a campus that is nestled between a forest conservation easement and an endangered dune and lagoon environment. And that the care that they take while they're there is a part of looking after that place. And of course, there's the historic preservation nature of the campus and the buildings that's also folded into it. But I think, again, having an experience where you're living and, living and breathing that for 2 weeks, or if you're working there for 3 months, you really start to think differently about what it means to care for and protect the environment. So that has really become a big part of what we think is really valuable about the campus as we're running it, but also how we're kind of giving back to civic life, that everybody leaves our campus with that, having maybe spent some time with those kinds of values while they were there. Yeah, and I think I can probably leave off there because otherwise I'm gonna be talking to you all evening. I really hope that you'll come and visit us this summer. Like I said, Friday Open Studios is next Friday, but always this coming Friday. But always excited to talk about art, talk about the environment, talk about history with any of you. Pay us a visit. Let me know if you'd like to come by or have any questions.
Great, thanks. You have questions, Russ?
Yeah, thank you. Shannon Russ Gardner, pleasure to meet you. I've been going out to Oxbow for 50+ years. Family members have gone to classes there. We've had relatives who've gone to classes there as recently as last summer with Jim Brandis, my father-in-law. And I've been around this long enough to remember when Oxbow was a very mysterious place, when there was absolutely zero connection between Oxbow and the community. So I'm very pleased by the progression of this relationship, and I would encourage you to find, and you're finding ways to make sure that you're connected with the town of Saugatuck as well as the city of Douglas. And you may remember, have you heard the name Patty Burkholz yet? Has that popped up? Yeah. So I was a close friend of Patty's, and when Patty was on the board back, I don't remember what year that was, we were trying to find ways to make it more accessible for people in town, because you drive up to the end of Park Street, and you didn't go any further for fear of Mary Kay when she was the caretaker, but also just because it was mysterious. And Patty, when she was on the board, we worked with her to, the Friday night open houses were one of her ideas to open up Oxbow, and it's just grown from there. So I just would encourage you to find ways to connect with the community at both a youth level as well. And that's another question I have for you is, we have a very active arts program at Saugatuck High School. It's a very arts community, as you know. How many kids or how many people come from the 49453 and 49406 zip codes that actually utilize the professional services at Oxbow, meaning taking classes? You probably don't have that number offhand, but I'm just kind of curious how much you're actually drawing from the zip codes at Project Two Communities.
I of course don't know if they live here just in the summer, if they live here year round. I don't have that level of detail. But Art on the Meadow primarily serves people who live in the Saugatuck Douglas Danville area. And then we have some, tourists and visitors that attend as well. I can tell you that since we've had Oxbow House as a threshold for meeting, the entire community, we can't put an outpost everywhere. So that's the one that's sort of doing the job. I can see from Art in the Meadow, and I can see from sales that we make up there, how many folks are new to Oxbow. And this year, we've got about 70% of our Art in the Meadow enrollees are new to taking the program, and many of them are regional. So just a little bit of that kind of public visibility has helped a lot, because there's somebody there that can talk one-on-one with people about how to get to campus and what's on campus. That threshold has been really important to be able to kind of tell the story, and make that invitation. As far as youth programs go, the way Art Mill Meadow functions is really for 13 years of age and up. We don't do really young children. Sometimes you have to specialize, and our programs are really for, like I said, like a teenager through to, 13 to 103. We are next summer planning, so Corey Pemberton, who we're honoring at the benefit, the reason we're honoring Corey is he's the founder, co-founder of a program called Crafting the Future that's specifically about supporting teens who don't normally have access to the summer, what are called like traditional craft schools. We sort of are both art and craft, but supporting a week of a teen takeover at those schools. So he's worked with Haystack and Penland and Pilchuck and other kind of peer organizations like Oxbow. So we'll be launching that next summer and collaborating with them and really focusing on supporting teens from this area. And this area would go all the way to Benton Harbor, like it would be a West Michigan more largely. So, a little bit of both between what happens at Art in the Meadow and when this teen takeover will be like an intensive where we would have chaperones and those teams will get to stay on campus.
Great. Thanks, Shannon. And please, the progression has been wonderful to watch, and I hope to continue to watch for a while. We'll see you out there.
Yeah.
Thank
so
you.
much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Just a comment, and I want to piggyback on that. I remember, years ago, the only time, people really heard about Oxbow was from their extravagant entries into the parades, And so much fun, so much fun. You guys always bring it. And I think through, I think you're very well articulate, and I just wanted to compliment you on your role at Oxbow since you've taken it on. I think it's accredited to the more community communication and awareness about Oxbow, and it shows. Oh, it was also credit to the CVB. They've done a lot to promote Oxbow, and it's nice to finally see that. Because I've known previous directors and folks at Expo that, like Russ is saying, and folks that always trying to, how do we get people to know about us? How do we get people to know about us? And of course, having that retail there in Douglas has done a wonderful job. But again, I think Oxbow has a good thing with you.
Thank
Mhm.
I will say that one of the things that really felt urgent when I had taught at Oxbow several times before I was the executive director, so it wasn't like a new entity to me. But one of the things that we really started to do during the pandemic when we opened up the campus for the plein air picnics is talk about like, well, we don't want to be a gated community. I mean, it is gated by the very nature that we can't do anything about the fact that we're on a single lane road between people's homes, and they've got, you gotta drive 5 miles an hour down it. Like, we can't change that. But how do we invite people in so they don't feel like it's actually a gated community when in fact it's not?
I've had to back up going halfway
Yeah.
when someone's coming down. I don't know if anybody has ever had to do that, but I have. It takes a little skill.
Thank you, Shannon.
I
We
so
really appreciate
the
it.
information. Nice to see you all.
Yeah, thanks so much. Brad, thank you for joining us.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Brad.
Hope everybody's staying cool
Of course
Right.
we are. Yeah.
as much as possible.
We're always
Yep.
cool.
Quick update for you. First thing, this coming Thursday, the 26th, we have the Senior Expo, County Senior Expo, First Baptist Church in Allegan, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. So if you know anybody, if you are of that age that would like to come and learn about all the services the county provides for seniors.
Why are you looking at me?
Before you leave.
That's a good event for people to come get information and what's available. There's many things that are there that people can look into. So we just look for people to show up. So
That's 8 to 1.
8 to 1, that's correct.
And it's where?
First Baptist Church in Allegan.
Thank you.
Yep. And then, as many of you may have forgotten already, but May 15th, we had the storm. We got all the damage reports sent into the state, all told, if you haven't heard already, through the news, $2.2 million was just through municipality, township, cities, villages, that were turned in that does not include any agricultural numbers, because that's a totally separate system of how it gets worked through with the state and the USDA and everything. So it's kind of skewed, but there really wasn't a whole lot anyway, but which is good. But on that note, and Ryan, I'm sure you got, July 1st, next Tuesday, there's a meeting at 11 a.m. for all those places that had damage to come, and the people from Michigan State Police are gonna come and go through the how-tos of how to put all your expenses through, how the process can work, what's available, and all the necessary questions that can be answered and asked and answered in that respect. So to that end. So, and on that note also, as it's been hot, power was out for a little while, but Saturday, yeah, sorry, I forgot. Ours just went on yesterday, back on, but, Saugatuck Township, Fire Department opened up a cooling center for a little while, and it's probably closed now, isn't it? Or is it still open?
It's close.
Okay, is it closed now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so which is great to hear, because I don't know if nobody used it, but for all the residents that didn't have electricity, they're just getting, they can come cool down. And we've always had trouble setting those up, because the one time we did that on the May 15th storm, we set up a shelter and nobody showed up. So to all the work gets put into, it's a difficult procedure. So, and on a note, good, according to what you're talking about at the beginning, Mayor, we have seen another cut from our federal funding. This time it's hit our Marine Sheriff's Division. So their funding for the Marine Division comes from the federal funding. I'm not sure exactly what fund, but it doesn't really matter. But so basically their funding got cut in half. Annual budget. So they've made necessary adjustments and changed a few things around, like most organizations, the highest percentage of their cost is staff and personnel. So it's either going to be the same amount of people for less hours patrolling, or less people for the normal amount of hours that they did before. So if you see during the summer hours here, in the river and on inland lakes, there's less county marine, that might be why, that there's trying to spread them out a little thinner, in throughout the whole county. Because according to the state constitution, there are certain services that must be offered, such as like dive and search and rescue. So they have to leave openings for that. So if somebody falls in and drowns, someone's available to go search and find them. But the trolls here are not necessarily obligated. So it's a matter of how much resources they have too. So, but I just wanted if that comes up, if you notice something that's not a whole lot we can do about it, but doing the very best they can to make adjustments as necessary. And then on to a similar issue with the parks millage. So we've been going round and round with the parks committee, parks board, what our options are as far as funding for that. And there are many on the table. One of them is a 0.25 millage, countywide millage, that if it does go on the ballot, will probably be next spring, next May, because it probably won't go on in November this year. So we're still looking into if that's the right time to do this with all the uncertainties in Washington and Lansing. Is the county ripe for millages on the ballot or not? We're efforting that, discussing that from all angles. So we don't have a clear procedure at this point, but we're just working on that. And, and that might mean if nothing happens, that a park or two might close. Sadly. So depending on what happens. So. And a couple other incidental things. We got an email from consumers that they are in negotiations to sell all 13 of their hydroelectric dams. So one company is in negotiating with them to purchase all 13 of them. And the communication we got alluded to they didn't tell us what company, but that they would they would keep them functioning as hydroelectric dams as they currently are. So what that means for us is that the Calkins Dam in Allegan will probably not be removed. If that happens. Which is probably a good thing, especially for the residents of Lake Allegan. So,
Mm.
yeah, so. And the problem there is. It, like a lot of townships, but Valley Township, I don't want to say it was like 45% of the total. Taxable value of the township lives around Lake Allegan. So. Yeah, so if that goes down, that's a bad for them. Anyway, the last thing, we also approved a resolution to. Support the restart of the Holtec / Palisades nuclear power plant in Culver. Due to be at this point started in October of this year. If they're on time, if they're not on time, then we'll see, but. So we just wanted to put out a letter, just support what they're doing. For the infrastructure grid that we have in the county and for the workforce that people from the county that go there to work. Which is great for our economic development, so that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Chris?
Yes, thank you for the report. Are you aware of the Outdoor Discovery Center coming to the different areas, us, Douglas, the township,
I am.
asking for donations?
I am.
Is that tying in with your Parks Department that might have to be cutting?
You know, I think they've had discussions about working together, but I'm not sure as to what end. I can check on that and find out. I'm not on the Parks Board. Communicate with Commissioner DeYoung and find out.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking
Okay.
about funding,
Yep.
that sure would be, we don't want to double fund something or
Mhm.
where should the money be going type thing. So, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else, Gregory?
You talked about the Marine Patrol here, but it's not 100% funded by federal, right? That's part of your funding.
No.
Do you know what percentage of that is federal?
I do not know what percent of.
Okay, I was just trying to put the cut in my head all together, but, and by the way, beautiful downtown Allegan, has done such a wonderful job, and I say that over and over again. I just love how they've re-landscaped the downtown area and brought the technology to them. How is the 123 net going, and is it still on track for being here in our area
It is.
by November or December, as you had previously mentioned?
It is on track. So they're at like 65-70% over the whole county.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, for you guys here, this is the very last area for them to cut to.
Uh-huh.
So they're working.
Right.
They're done, basically north of the river is done.
Right.
Or being connected more or less. And then they're Ganges, working towards Casco, in that area, south of the river, working up to here.
So they're on track. That means that we could expect again, November, December, maybe?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Now the catch here is Saugatuck has existing infrastructure
Mhm.
that already is in place.
Right.
So I have to connect with Jill to find out, because technically the contract with the 123 net is to provide service for unserved or underserved areas.
Right.
So if there's an area that has service from another company, they may not necessarily be going into there because they're saying, well, you already have internet service here.
Right.
And I don't have the map of Saugatuck memorized.
Mm.
How many areas are, but I know it's kind of in and out, where it is and where it isn't. So, but they are on track to do that,
Good.
but unfortunately, this area is the very last
Right. Yes,
area
it's-
scheduled.
Right, as she mentioned before, yeah.
Yeah.
And then also, I don't know if you got a chance to, but last Monday I went to the food truck
Mhm.
Fork in the Road in downtown Allegan.
I did not.
I would suggest anybody to go through there. It's Monday, 5 to 8, but go check out downtown, just a little advertisement for them. I think it's really neat to have the food trucks all around. Had a great burger from Zomburgers. It was wonderful.
They have good burgers.
Yeah.
One more,
Scott?
Commissioner, do we know what the cause of that power outage on Saturday was?
So, because I drove by a few times, there's a substation on Old Allegan Road and 58th Street, or just to the east.
Yeah.
That there's now sitting a trailer full of new transformers that are connected to the substation.
Okay.
So I'm guessing they had some type of catastrophic catastrophic failure in the transformers in the substation with an overload or what have you. And they had to redo, that and put it all back, because that was the very last area that was put back for power. So
I heard the whole town cheer at about 6 o'clock on Saturday. You could just hear all around town.
that's the
so-
only area the other auxiliary, I don't know exactly what happened, but that was one of the bigger.
Yeah. I was just curious, it cost our local businesses a lot of money.
Right.
In a summer with a lot of money, I mean, it's been brutal with power outages for
And
businesses.
We've seen in Detroit, the big, when I lived over there, the big issue was, investing in their own infrastructure and,
Yeah.
wondering.
I will say,
Because we've seen a lot of power outages just in the last couple of years, more so than we have in years past.
I've lived in east of here for 35 years. And consumers, since they went through and did all the tree trimming, if you remember that 7, 8 years
Mhm.
ago, Trees Incorporated,
Mhm.
all around all the lines and everything, to the behest of some resident,
Right.
I'm sure, I can count on one hand, the amount of times we've had, 24-hour power outage like we just had. Right? Whereas before it was very often, it was a couple days, we would be on power. And usually it's a couple hours here, a couple hours there. So they do very well in an emergency situation to get us back as best they can. So,
Well, 3 hours at least for us, we were all happy about
Yeah.
that. No, I thought that was a lot. It was quicker than I had estimated because when I went to the consumer's site, it was saying 2:33 in the morning was telling us, and then at 6 o'clock, all of a sudden it was on. So we were all happy about that.
then our generator was running until 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon.
Right.
So I was happy to turn that off too. So not using diesel fuel. So, yeah. So anyway.
Anything else? Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, man.
Thanks, Russ. Okay, that takes us to our first public comment period. This is for agenda items only. Anyone in the room like to make a comment? Anyone on Zoom? Doesn't look like it. All right, we'll close public comment and go to item 9, consent agenda. Chris,
Are we able to ask questions about this or not?
on the consent agenda, yeah, why don't we get a motion and then we can ask questions?
I move we accept the consent agenda as provided. Second.
Questions, comments?
I'm looking at the Water Invitational Art Fair and the Chili Cook-Off, both of which show that there would need some help from the Department of Public Works. And again, I'm hoping that we're not charging for any of that. I know it talked about barricades being put up, and those are obviously different than the concrete ones. And then blocking off roads and then opening roads back up. But we're just gonna have Park and Public Works take care of that without any charge to the people that are asking for it.
Yeah, for barricades and
Okay.
Yep. I don't think anything is different this year.
So
Is
for
there-
the invitational, it's not a road closure, it's a 3-tier barricade, and actually it's just for drop-off zones for the vendors, and then they leave town and the roads are open. So it's more or less like a drop-off zone, not necessarily a full road closure, because one lane is open and traffic's being.
I just wanted to make sure that we weren't charging the people that are putting these events on for any work that the Department of Public Works does.
Correct. Yeah, this is in line with what we've, provided for, a number of years. Yep.
Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, this is a roll call vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Lean,
Yes.
Muncy,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, staff reports. We've heard from Ryan, but are there further questions for him on his report?
No, but not necessarily in your report, but I just want to point out the information about the fraudulent emails that were going out, and wondering if you were going to follow up by, doing an e-blast or some kind of communication for folks about that.
So we, instead of putting something out, more broadly, said,
It was a bit disturbing because I saw the images and they've got the Saugatuck logo infused in it. It looks official.
yeah, and at this point, when we can tell everything's kind of related to, applicants that were a part of a, to the, applicants to the planning commission, as a proactive measure, like, okay, other packets are also, posted and I don't know if this is, somebody using the list from the Holland Sentinel and going down the list of all the packets that are available with us and everyone else, and just kind of using AI tools to do this more broadly. I sent, kind of notice to my colleagues in the area that the Holland Sentinel covers so that they were aware. But as a proactive measure, we reached out to applicants from the last few months to the HDC, Planning Commission and ZBA to at least give them a heads up. Hey, there's some fraudulent emails going around, be aware, be cautious, that kind of a thing. So, I think that's sufficient at this point, that we don't need to do something more broadly, but if we somehow become aware of something that's broader than that, we certainly could put out more.
Okay, very good.
Anything else for Ryan? Nikki's online. Any questions on the treasurer's report? All right, anything for Jamie? Luke is here, so any questions for Luke? Okay, no DPW report. We had some police stats and any questions for Ryan to take back to Sergeant House? And no engineering report. So that gets us to boards, commissions. Dan, will you start off with the fire district administration board?
Sounds good. Let's amplify this. So this report's on Fire Board's meeting a week ago.
Looks like Tom Cruise.
Say it again?
Looks like Tom Cruise.
It does.
I'll convey that, and
Okay.
he would love to hear that. That's the chief, of course. That's actually not.
Is that filter? Is there a filter on that?
That is,
That's at a community event taken much earlier, but we'll talk about another such event later on. Okay, next one, Jamie, please. So this is the typical incident report. You guys had this in advance, Jamie tells me, so just to note the highlights there. The record high, and you'll see this, I think, in one of the other charts, part of that is due to the May storm. I mean, calls were coming in left and right, and the spike was unbelievable. And not a one was missed. And that's the overlapping call. 50% is a really high number, and taxes the people and the equipment. The motor vehicle accident note relates to the roundabout, where while there have been accidents there, they've been limited to property damage accidents, no injury accidents there, where in previous months and years, there were any number of serious personal injury, including a death, I'm pretty sure, not all that long ago. And then finally, just the note on Saugatuck was whatever, 21% of the almost 200 visits. There's the overlapping incident number. The gray bars are the current year. The other bars are prior years, and you see that makes it a record on that chart and a record on charts before it. So next one, Jamie. And here you have the traditional map on where all the excitement is. These are incidents by the various sub areas within the fire district. So Saugatuck City, north and south, and so on. That's right. You can go to the next one. Oh, we are at the next one. We don't have the life emergency responses yet for May, but you can see the trend up until that point, and still on balance, running at or significantly below what we've seen prior. So next one, please. You've asked before a couple of times on the incident, the character of the EMS calls, and that's what this chart is. So almost 60% of the calls out of those first three categories was falls and, non-specific sick person and breathing problems. Those are the big ones, and then drops down to everything you can imagine from there on. These are the standard numbers for the three jurisdictions that comprise the fire district. Share of budget, share of population, and call volume. Roughly. And you don't manage those numbers. They are what they are, but they're relatively stable. Next one, please, Jamie. In other news, at our board meeting, Tony Schippa, who was here, made that presentation, same presentation he made to the fire board, and he had made a prior request that the fire district accept the role of lead sponsor for this program. So, and which we were happy to do, and that was unanimous. Fire district, I think, if I'm remembering the number correctly, I think Greg said provided one way or another by the fire district, there are 65 AEDs within the district. Depends. Some are in private homes, some are inside private businesses. And Tony mentioned one of their goals. I think there's one at, I could be wrong, I shouldn't say this, but I think there's one at Urban, whatever it is next door here. What's it called? Urban
Outfitters.
Yes, I think there's one there, but if not, it's one of the other stores in that line, but it's inside. And the goal is to get these outside and boxes and so on and so forth. Because when somebody falls down in the street, they don't know there's one inside, and if the person inside's, whatever. So that's a goal. He's got lots of goals, and there's lots to do, and it'll take a good bit of time, but it is absolutely worthwhile. The statistics are just truly impressive on what a difference the first 3, 4, 5 minutes makes. And that, and in terms of getting people trained, understanding that you are, somebody goes down in front of you and you start doing chest compression, there is no liability that can be attached to you. So the trick is getting people to understand how to do that. It's not that complicated. It's difficult in terms of your use of your body, because you use your full weight of your body to make that compression work. So, but anyway, I thought that was a good development. The next one, please. And this is just you saw it in the newspaper, I assume, the article on the South Station and the signing of that non-binding letter of intent that I shared with you, I think, last time. But I wanted to make, there's a correction that needs to be made in there. I'm sort of surprised that what hasn't hit the fan, because there's a line in there where it talks about Lisa, the city manager over in Douglas, at one point suggesting or whatever that the city convey to the fire district the space at zero cost. Well, maybe that wasn't, if it was said, it was mistakenly said. And if you're a constituent of Douglas, this situation, that's their property. It's paid $1.5 million for that property and investing more in it. So we fully expect the cost. We have a rough idea of what that cost is, and it appears to be affordable. So we're moving forward on that. Most recently, I think next week sometime, I haven't looked at my calendar. There's a meeting in Allegan with the bonding people in Allegan, because apparently there is one route to bonding. So that's a possibility. And Peter, who was treasurer here, he will be with us on that as we try and figure our way through that. But that continues apace. And finally,
Scott Sullivan's online going like this.
What's the matter?
Scott Sullivan's online, his mistake.
I still didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Scott
Scott Sullivan from the page.
Yeah, he was tearing his hair out.
We can blank you out, Scott, if it's necessary.
Yeah, I should be blanked out after that.
Let's keep your shirt up.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah. Thank you, Gregory.
Nothing else, keep your shirt on.
Oh, jeez.
I
It's
mean,
hot.
as you know, the fire district's involved in training pretty much constantly at some level or another. And some of those training deals come about because some community group or whatever requests help because of the apparatus we have or what have you. And that was the case here. That's 2151. That's the ladder truck, which is a handful to drive. It's the longest vehicle we have by far, and it doesn't go on a lot of calls because there aren't a lot of calls for the ladder truck. When you need it, but you don't need that often. So this was one of those cases, we're able to help out this community group using the fire district's equipment. For example, I mean, the guys need to train on laying that hose across the street, on marking that hose, on connections to that, on power, all of that stuff. You don't just walk up to it and there's what you're doing. And that training had the added advantage of being a lot of fun, which is what this little video shows you. This is filmed, shot from the ladder truck, from the top of the ladder truck, as you can see. That was a library event called, I think it was called Foam Friday. When it was, amusing to me, when it was shown at the fire board meeting, like 3 people jumped to say, that's not our foam, is it? Because foam fire district uses, not something you want kids running around in. That is not, that was foam.
Right.
They created. That's it. Any questions? Yeah.
Chris? Thank you. I'm always impressed by the packet that you come out with. And I think that if I remember correctly, there is a police person usually at the fire department, kind of cohabitat there. I would love to be able to have the police department provide this same amount of information for us. Response times, the locations where the calls are made, the types of calls, and especially even looking forward after what the commissioner told us about reducing patrolling maybe on the Kalamazoo Harbor. I'd like to have some way of knowing what those calls are, how often they make them, how many people get picked up. Do you have that all done in-house?
We don't.
The fire department doesn't.
No.
I mean,
the
your own
sheriff-
stuff, your own stuff.
Our stuff is,
In,
our stuff abetted by the 911 office in Allegan, which is that's why the chief always said at a meeting this afternoon, do not call me.
Mhm.
People have a cell phone number. Don't call me.
Mhm.
Right.
Call Allegan. Dial 911. There's a reason for that. It gets recorded and so forth.
I'd really like to see some way of working with the police department to get something more, I guess with more information.
Yeah, I can't speak for
Then,
for what
no.
they have access to or what they routinely look at, but and I take very little credit for what gets presented here. I do the slides and stuff, but the actual information comes from Eric Kitcher, if I'm pronouncing it correctly,
Mhm.
who's the IT resource within the fire district. So he and Deputy Chief Mandels take charge of that data and do the analysis and so on and so forth. I don't know what,
Okay, I can
the
look
sheriff's
into it a little
department.
bit more. I just think we as a council need to know more about the incidences of with the police department and response time. And especially now, if we're going to be looking at the Allen County Sheriff, maybe cutting down on the Marine Patrol. Thank you.
yeah, well, I learned that tonight about the Marine Patrol.
Mhm,
You know who that then falls to? Many of those calls will fall to the fire district.
mhm.
That's on our nickel. And that's not, as you well know, that's not an inexpensive resource. Those fireboats.
Well, if we're looking at trying to work our way through the no wake and that issue, the one thing that everybody agreed on was that there needed to be more support from the police out there on the water. And so this was
Sadly, it's only gone
Mhm.
one way.
yeah.
Coast Guard, now Allegan County, whatever, they're constricting. I mean, Coast Guard used to be a lot more of a presence here, at Grand Haven, even there where Coast Guard City. Yeah, although it's not the Coast Guard money that used to be there, I don't think so.
Okay.
It's too bad.
Other questions for Dan?
Thank you all.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate you. Interurban, Gregory.
Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, I wish I'd known about the foam party.
I know. I was actually whispered to Lauren, maybe we could get that at our picnic tomorrow.
Interurban, well, the building's finally getting ready to break ground. We finally saw the final plans. We're gonna have 2 bathrooms, a bigger conference area. And also, a bigger garage area is gonna allow an office for our main mechanic there. And also, a reminder that, our extended route has been a success. We pulled in some big numbers from people from Lake Town Township. I talked about that in our last meeting or last workshop. And so we're really happy about that. But in the process, and we usually do, we've hired about, I think it's 4 new part-time employees, another seasonal employee, and 1 more seasonal employee we're looking for. Of course, with the expansion, the expenses go up as well. And so, and as we get into next year, we're just kind of prepping everybody that we probably will be asking for a larger millage for next year to get us through because of that. And then also a little note, we've got something on the agenda, about the healthcare, the increase in healthcare spending, and just wanted to remind that, it is across the board. We were at like 14%. I think we're like 12 something percent that we had to go, our policies went up at the Interurban for our employees as well. So just wanted to note that is kind of across the board, so.
Thanks, Gregory.
Mhm.
Cal Lake Sewer and Water.
Yeah, thank you. Not a whole lot to report. I think at our last meeting, Ryan mentioned, or brought up the issue that was related to billing. I think that's pretty much mapped out how everybody's gonna get caught up. The issue really was restricted to people who received their bills in the mail. And they, for whatever reason, gave them the bill from same bill they had last year. So, letters went out pretty much explaining there's gonna be no late fees or anything. There'll be a catch-up bill in June. And hopefully get that all behind us. But it does bring up another point where the postcard bills that people who do receive them now are going to be phased out. There's very little real estate. The bills are becoming more complicated, and Cal Lake also wants the ability to be able to do inserts, mail inserts with the bills, notices when they're doing flushing or whatever, any types of events. So beginning next month, next bill cycle, I believe they'll be rolling into actual bills stuffed in envelopes. And I believe they're gonna, make sure there's a caption on the envelope so people aren't caught by surprise. It says, "This is a utility bill, open it." So
Mhm.
do what I do and throw them away, right? Other than that, it's the time of year apparently for sewer backups due to disposals of handy wipes, and people are throwing them in.
Again?
Happens every time, apparently this time of year. I'm learning something every meeting I go to. But, yeah, apparently the convenience wipes are a real problem when people are commissioning their homes for the summer and what have you. There's a lot of them that go down the drain, they get clogged up, they call in a plumber, it pushes it into the system gets blocked out, and the crews have been called for several times now to go and clean out. And I think they've had some backups even here on Butler Street, if I'm not mistaken.
It's not cheap.
It's not cheap. But, and there've been some claims that have been made, but, pretty much Cal Lake saying this isn't on us. So good shape there. Other than that, little minor damage from the storms on May 16th. And the truck got damaged in a small accident, but nothing else to report. That's about it.
Great. Thanks.
Real quick, any update on the issue that was going on here on Butler Street? Was Kalamazoo, were they, do you know anything about what had happened there? I'd heard some of the property owners thought that it might have been a city issue with the sewer. And was that looked at, or?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
In front of the sunglass store or
Yeah, so Cal Lake was very responsive, had been out there at least 2 or 3 times and checked the actual sewer main itself. there was some, kind of suction of some of those wipes and things like that.
So that's what really caused that problem?
No, that,
Okay,
so that was something that they discovered in that area and took care of that particular issue, but didn't see any other, issues. And so the issue with that, property is it's the sewer lateral, which the business is responsible for. So they don't know exactly where the issue is at. They've been kind of going out into the right of way and trying to find out exactly where the issue is. They dug up the sidewalk,
Mhm.
issue wasn't there. Well, they have to kind of follow that further into the streets. So they've updated their permits with us and paid their escrow deposits and those sorts of things that we needed to issue the permits. So their contractor was supposed to start last week. I think they were delayed because they were waiting on some consumers verifications in the area and what they had. But at this point, it's all private property, or I should say the business owner's responsibility is the sewer main or sewer lateral up to the main itself. So, so it's not something that the city's
responsible for.
found or is responsible for.
Okay.
It's at their cost. And so, but you should see some further work soon on that. And it will be frankly, probably some disruptive work where a lane is closed and maybe some flaggers out there to get traffic through while they're going further into the street to actually find out where the issue is.
Yeah, I'd spoken to a couple building owners and some of the folks that work in those buildings. And they had said that the city in Kalamazoo were very good with communication and we're staying on top of it. But
Good, that's good feedback. I know, we got the private property owner, connected with John Moxie and he was
Mhm.
very responsive in getting, what we had and didn't have. I will say, I appreciate you asking this question actually, because, there was somebody that made, a complaint that, there was sewage everywhere and
Right.
that there was things that weren't being addressed
Right,
and they made a complaint to the EPA and I got a call from Eagle and I'm like, that's not.
and I
true."
got yelled at in the middle of Butler.
So both Daryl at Cal Lake and I both had corresponded with Eagle very quickly and got them up to speed and they were very satisfied with where we're at. So
Okay, thank you.
Great. Anything else? Chris?
I am giddy that I maybe will have a committee meeting next month.
Okay, we can't wait.
It's only been 6 months.
Yeah. ZBA, I don't believe has met, Russ is here, Historic District, Joe Planning Commission.
We're hitting the gas with the master plan. We've now set up special meetings to opposite of this meeting every Wednesday, 4 o'clock. So for foreseeable future, we know it's going to be a process to get it done, but we're all anxious to get it going and we're looking forward to getting some public engagement. Next meeting, we'll be working hard on trying to get a public survey done, get the questions out, start getting some input from the community at large. So that's going on. Sign ordinance, that's another one that's coming. I've been saying that, I think, the last couple meetings. That's going to be a process too. We had quite a long meeting last Thursday, and we're going to continue working on it. I wish I could give you an ETA when we'd have some language to review here at council, but hopefully over the next couple of meetings, we'll get a better idea as we kind of narrow down and get closer to something that can be shared with council. So, and as I mentioned before, this is really being mandated by legal due to a Supreme Court decision on not being able to set up ordinances based on content. So continue to work on that. You saw there was in our consent agenda, it was Pumpernickel's put in a request for outdoor dining, taking up some of the parking that drew some comments from some of the planning commissioners,
Mhm.
concerned a little bit that, we're kind of in ground zero where all the activity happens and should we be concerned, about taking up parking and blocking sidewalks and what have you, but we moved it forward. That's, council's decision to kind of evaluate the policy and planning looked at it and said it fit within the guidelines that have been established. So that's why it had the consent agenda today. But anyway, we do wish them well and looking forward to seeing it set up out there. So that's it from planning.
Joe? Okay, Lauren.
Parks and Public Works meets tomorrow at 10 a.m. We'll have a presentation on Mount Bald Head erosion and vegetation with the Allegan County Conservation District.
Oh, great.
So I'll be able to report back on that.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Scott, anything on the tri-community non-motorized trail?
Nothing new, Mayor.
Ryan or Joe, anything on the water system?
Nothing new this week.
Okay. And then I know we've looked at the wildlife management. Anything to add to that? I know we
Nothing to
talked
add
about the workshop.
to our Wednesday workshop discussion.
Okay. Great. That takes us to approval of accounts payable, page 126.
I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable in the amount of $160,075.26.
Second.
Any questions? All right, this is roll call.
Anderson.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Stan.
Yes.
Motion carries. No public hearings or unfinished business. That takes us to new business, the resolution budget amendments for fiscal 2024-25, which is on page 128. We talked about this at the workshop. Any questions?
I'll make the motion, Mayor.
Okay.
If there are none. Motion to approve resolution number 250623-A to amend the budget of the 2024-2025 General Appropriations Act.
Second.
Oh, second.
Any questions before we vote? All right, so roll call.
Anderson.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Stan.
Yes.
Motion carries. And then the next resolution is electing to comply with provisions of the Public Act 152 by exercising the city's right to exempt itself from the requirements of the act for the current year, which is on page 143. We also talked about this at the workshop.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the resolution number 250623-B as presented.
Second.
Any questions or discussion before we vote? All right, this is also roll call.
Anderson.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Stan.
Yes.
Motion carries. And then the next is employee health insurance benefits, which is on page 148, and Ryan provided us with a handout, so I'll turn it to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I kind of supplemented the report a bit since your meeting packet came out with one of the things that we talked about last Wednesday when we reviewed the different options and the recommendation for some changes to the employee health insurance benefit offerings was one that we were looking at making a change to the West Michigan Partners kind of HMO plan for folks, our employees that are in a partner county, and that they would kind of have these tiered options within the HMO to seek coverage that came with an increase in deductible, but also came with kind of some offsetting benefits, and that there was less out of pocket as it related to co-insurance, slightly lesser co-pays for primary care, and some lesser drug costs as well. And that by going to that plan, we were essentially going to be saving a lot of additional cost from the quoted renewal to stay with what we currently have. So one of the additional options that I said I was exploring and I had to wait to hear back from insurance on was whether or not there was a health savings account option to also offer. Not that we were going to completely go to that or force employees to go to that at this point, but that we wanted to maybe offer that up as an option for employees that we can do some education, help them understand a health savings account, how that works, and for employees that might work better for, or they want to switch to that plan, that could be an option. So I confirmed with insurance that we can offer both the West Michigan Partners in kind of the regular HMO form, and then we could also offer it in the health savings account form as well, which comes with a higher deductible, as you can see from the plan options that were in your meeting packet. But this plan would also come with us kind of shifting our existing $2,000 HRA contribution that we have available to staff for vision and dental expenses. We would shift those dollars to the health savings account, but this would be entirely at the employee's discretion. So this would be something that they're determining, hey, yep, I'm fine, kind of foregoing the 2,000 towards an HRA, putting that into an HSA. And then, my recommendation is that we kind of offer a bit of an extra incentive for folks that are willing to make that leap to the HSA and put in an additional $500. So if folks choose that plan, they would get $2,500 contributed towards their HSA account. So the motion that is on your, in the kind of additional handout that I gave to you, it's a little wordy because the plan names are a little long.
You did it.
So the reason why there's two additional kind of plans there, if folks aren't in a West Michigan Partners County, we have to have an option for them. And so that Priority Health indicated we could give a comparable plan or offer a comparable plan to those.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to offer employees in a West Michigan partner county the Priority HMO Gold G10 West Michigan Partners Plan or Priority HSA HMO Gold G16 West Michigan Partners Plan with a $2,500 city contribution to an HSA in lieu of the HRA, and to offer the Priority HMO Gold G10 Plan or Priority HSA HMO Gold G16 Plan with a $2,500 city contribution to an HSA in lieu of an HRA to employees outside of a partner county.
I will second that.
Any questions for Ryan before we vote? All right, so we'll all vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Munson.
Yes.
Yes, Stan.
Yes.
Motion carries. And before we move on, just thank you to both Nikki and Ryan for all the work you've put into that. It's great that we still have really strong plans to offer our employees and cost savings to the city. So great work. Takes us to 14D Kalamazoo River Greenway Request for Funding and Advisory Board appointment, which is on page 163.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion to approve $5,000 in funding to the Outdoor Discovery Center for Kalamazoo River Greenway Plan projects and to appoint Councilmember Stanton to serve on the Kalamazoo River Greenway Advisory Board.
Second.
Any questions or comments before we vote? All right, also roll call vote.
Anderson.
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Gibson.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, that finishes up the new business, which takes us to a motion to go into closed session.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to MCL 15.268H to discuss confidential written legal opinion regarding compensation and benefits.
Second.
To roll call vote.
Anderson.
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Yes.
Stan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
Brad.
Oh.
Yes.
Right. As we said before, we appreciate all you do for the city and how well you do it. And we have worked with our city attorney on a compensation recommendation.
And at this time, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the mayor and city attorney to negotiate amendments to the manager's employment agreement to provide for a 3-year term with a car allowance of $6,000 and minimum salary increases of $135,000 effective July 1st, 2025, $145,000 effective July 1st, 2026, and $160,000 effective July 1st, 2027.
I'll second.
Should, questions, comments? I guess you don't get to ask questions. So let's vote and then we can talk to you about it.
Okay.
Anderson.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Stan.
Yes.
So our goal is to provide incentives for you to be with the city.
Motion carries.
Motion carries, sorry. Is to provide a look to your future. These are minimum, we're setting a floor. So and at least this council is committed to ensure that all of our employees receive above average compensation when you look at sort of our comparable peer set. So this, you know, can kind of give you some certainty of what we like and I mean, what we see as a floor and do a better job of reimbursing you for your car expenses. The other thing we would like you to do is look at the match that we provide for retirement for all of our employees. Because from, you know, what we understand, we lag other communities and think that it's worth taking a look and making an adjustment to that for everybody so that we are more competitive in that regard. You know, obviously can't time it to this for everybody, but maybe we could look to implement that at year end, at calendar year end. If that is feasible, we don't know what really goes into doing that, but. So, anyway, we're really pleased and we're glad to have you with us.
Well, thank you all greatly for that confidence and your trust. And so it means a lot, honestly. So I appreciated the comments that you shared with me last week during my performance review and closed session. And I told all of you, but I still pinch myself, you know, that I'm here in Saugatuck. It's just a fantastic place to be. And I'm grateful to serve here with all of you and with our staff team. And you know, it's obviously not just me. It takes a team and all of us working together in our roles that we all have, and really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Great. And we will stay on top. We talked too about the benefit of getting the data from Frank from like communities. And we know you do that with staff so that we're sure that we're, you know, we're paying people what they deserve. So thanks, Margaret. Okay. Awesome. So I need to look at our agenda, I think.
To public comment.
Public comment, we, you know, or Chris. So,
Yeah.
Chris was here sitting patiently waiting for us to provide the most
You're
recent.
talking about me.
Planogen.
No, other Chris, no.
Yeah.
Chris is at Kleingens, I think his last name is. Anyway, he left this for us and he'll probably request to be a speaker at a future. We don't have any correspondence, council comments. Chris, do you want to start?
No comments. I don't have anything at this time, Mayor.
I just, again, I continue to be concerned about infrastructure in the county and in our little municipality. You know, a lot of businesses got hurt on Saturday because, you know, everybody thought, based on what they saw coming online, that power was going to be out until the early hours of the morning. And I feel terrible for our business community that, you know, it looked like after the fireworks, you know, Saturday afternoon, cars lining up on Holland Street, lining up on Blue Star to leave town because folks didn't know. So I remain concerned that we continue to have infrastructure issues in our county and in our city. And I just think we as a council and as a city need to redouble our efforts to continue to find solutions to some of the infrastructure problems that we continue to face when we become as crowded as we do this time of year.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that Music in the Park did not happen last Wednesday. It was a rain out for Nate Holly. I don't know if we'll be able to get him on at the end of the season but we all get to hear Nick from Wally's. He puts me to bed every night, almost every weekend. I mean, with his music coming through my bedroom window. But next week or this Wednesday, Wealthy Soul will be there, and just wanted to let folks know about that because I always like to update people about events, and I can't wait until tomorrow. I'm gonna have fun.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
I've been trying to figure out what outfit I want to wear, so I'm working on it. You know, I want it to be very, you know, picnicky, you know.
Yeah.
All in my baskets, you know, which
Yeah.
basket am I gonna bring things in?
I'm thinking about which hat. Joe?
Looking forward to tomorrow as well. And I'm also, I'm gonna sound like a broken record here, but we really need to talk about some of the safety issues that surround having these tables in the street. I mean, I watched a kid reached out and touched a car as he was going by, sitting at a table. I saw a car trying to do a U-turn right over here. And I mean, his bumper just swung almost right into the tables. Whether it's gonna be deliberate or distraction or whatever. I'm really concerned. I think it would be in our best interest to get that on the agenda one of these days and just kind of talk about what we can do to just not get rid of the tables, but secure a perimeter around. Some of them, have parking that blocks the cars, but others, I mean, I had a friend joke with me that had the mirror in his truck sails over people's heads when he comes down the street here. Now that's an exaggeration, but other people are noticing it, and it's worthy of our time. So I would like to get that on the agenda, one of our workshops. Thank you.
Yep, two things. One, I share your concerns, Scott, about the infrastructure. And what's very frustrating is that if consumers would bury wires like when Maple Street, but they don't, and it would cost us $1 million to bury the wires, but they spend so much money on outages like this. It's penny wise, pound foolish. But I just felt sick for our businesses once again to just get clobbered. The other thing, though, on a happier note, I had a meeting here this morning and I was just so impressed. I mean, the book of work involving the budget and the health plans and all of that, primarily with Brian and Nikki. And then Jamie was having me sign stuff and, she's pulling stuff from here and there and, can actually remember what it is she's giving me to sign. And Sarah, breaking a $20 bill so I could pay the rotten sausage guy. And it's just we have such a great staff and I hope tomorrow they get even a tiny glimmer of how much we appreciate them and value them. We are so lucky and it makes me feel good. So with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Second. I will.
Thank you, Lizzie.
Good night.